Welcome back to me talking about my version of the Marauders in podcast form with Emma and Snuffles.
Oh yeah.
Snuffles is right by the camera. Not the camera, the mic. The mic. Oh, good. Don't do it. Don't you dare freaking do it.
Oh.
Okay, then leave. If you want to stay, then stay. If you want to leave, then leave. You can't have both, girl. Well, looks like she chose to leave. So, there's been a lot going on. In case you hadn't noticed, I haven't posted in a full month.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is the longest break I've taken since starting this. And here's why. Here's the answer. We don't know why. We don't know what's wrong with me, but I do have... Snuffles is really having the time of her life right here in the background. Sorry. But I do have fatigue. We don't know where it came from. We don't know why. But I sleep, like, a lot, and I'm really tired all the time. And it's not, like, regular tired. It's like when you're sick and you're tired, except I don't have any other symptoms. So that's been really fun, and I've been dealing with that for, like, a month. It's not as bad as it was. When it first started, I slept 22 hours a day for, like, 3 days in a row, and then, like, 18 hours a day and stuff. Like, it was bad. But now I still sleep a lot, but I can, like, go to school at least for some time. I've only gone to school for the full day 4 days in the past 4 weeks. So, not great, but, like, we're getting better, you know? Because, yeah, for the first week or so, I didn't go to school at all.
Yeah.
And then, like, I've started going, but, like, I can't do any extracurriculars or anything like that. I, like, go to school, and then I come home and I sleep. But I was really, really, really burnt out from doing so much school because now, since I'm getting some energy back, I've had to make up all of the things that I've missed in the past month, which has been so
Quite
fun.
a bit.
Oh, yeah, so much stuff. I'm currently, since I did a huge bulk of it yesterday and, like, throughout the past week, I'm currently failing all of my classes, but, like, I'm not actually, but, like, if you look, I, like, have 40s in all of my classes, but it's so great. I love it. But yeah, so I've just been doing nonstop school, sleep, doctor's appointments. School, sleep, doctor's appointments. Yeah, I've had blood drawn. I've been tested for, like, everything under the sun. Nobody knows what it is. The thing that I'm starting to think it is I think it's long COVID. I think I was asymptomatic with COVID, and now I'm showing long-term side effects because that's what it matches up with best, because the only other symptom I've had is shortness of breath. I've just been sleeping and shortness of breath. That's been it. And so it's like,
Very specific.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what it is. But we're not here to talk about that. So anyway, how's your month been?
I mean, pretty good.
in comparison. Yeah, I'd say, like, it's so funny. Like, I go back to school. So they've told me to call it chronic fatigue because it is, but we just don't know what's causing it. But anyway, so they're like, so my friends at school are like, oh, I'm so tired. And I look at them and I'm like, I win this game now. Like, you think you're tired, bruh. I have chronic fatigue. And yeah, and then they pretty much shut up. But yeah, no, really, like, seriously, I don't know anything that's happened with you because, like, keeping up with people is impossible. So, like, has anything interesting happened? I want to know, genuinely.
Well, I think, our guitar teacher just quit.
Yeah, I did hear about that. I, like, show up and everybody's like, oh, you know how this teacher that's very committed to his students left mid-year? And I was like, oh, shoot, for real?
So I am so ahead on all of my homework because I just have an hour and a half where we do nothing. And we started bringing cards to class.
Amazing. Okay, first off, amazing. Second off, can we switch? Because I'm so behind in everything, and I would like to not be. I just finished an essay that was due the week that I went out. It was already a day late, and then I got incredibly sick, and I just felt so bad. And my teacher, like, I've been keeping her the most updated, and she's like, girl, I don't care. Like, it's an essay. Stop worrying about it. You're, like, dying. But I finally finished it yesterday, so feeling pretty accomplished. Shall we slither into it?
Oh my gosh.
I had to say it at least once. I kept on getting messages that were like, why haven't you said it yet? And I was like, because that's very cringy. But you know what? I'm in a mood, man. I am in a mood, and I might fall asleep, but...
If it just switches to me and Snuffles, like, halfway through, don't be surprised.
Yeah, because I might just be taking a nap. That would be so funny. If I just, like, took a power nap. Like, halfway through. Alright, so, do we need a reminder of where we left off?
Yeah.
So it was Remus and Sirius, their whole coming out extravaganza.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Peter still doesn't know what's going on.
Peter is just chilling.
Poor Peter. So, yeah. Remus and Sirius are like, listen, let's not tell him, because, like, we've had a lot of things just happen. Like, let's hold off for, like, a second, and then actually tell him in a way that we want to tell him, and it's not, like, weird and surprising, like all of our other coming out things have been. They're like, we gotta make it right for Peter, okay? So they're gonna try and do that. And honestly, not much even changes, because, like, from, like, them hiding it from James, because, like, they're all always around Peter, so it's like, nothing had really changed, except now James is, like, aware of, like, everything that's happening, and he's, like, losing his mind, because now James is noticing all of the little moments between Remus and Sirius, and James is like, was this always a thing, and I didn't know? Like, what is happening here? Remus is not, like, adjusting to this new blue moon thing happening, like, at all. He's really not vibing. He's, like, getting sicker and sicker beforehand.
He has chronic fatigue.
I wrote this part before. I did. I wrote half of this episode the day that it hit, and then haven't touched anything in a month, and then finished it yesterday. So he's, like, not... This is why it happened. This is it. This is it. I did.
After this episode, it's all done, though, then.
Oh,
as long as you resolved everything.
Yeah. I just have to write only positive things. They got mad at me for writing sad things. The universe. They. Sorry. Anyway. No, but he's not vibing at all. And for the first time, James is noticing that, like, when Remus is not doing well, it's, like, Sirius doing his homework and Sirius checking in on him and all of these things. And he's like, has this always been happening? He's like, I'm so dumb. He's like, are they just less cautious now that they know I know? And it's, like, only Peter? Or have I always been this stupid? He's like, I don't know. But anyway, either way. James noticed, and he tried to, like, be aware of it and, like, give them some space and stuff like that when, like, Remus wasn't feeling particularly well. He'd just be like, yo, Peter, we should just
ditch these losers.
let's ditch the chronically ill, bro. Okay, anyway, day before the moon. It's bad. Like, really, really bad. So when James comes back from his run in the morning, Remus is, like, still asleep, and so he, like, tries to wake him up, but as soon as Remus, like, wakes up, he's, like, in pain, and Remus is like, I'm fine, but, like, don't worry. He's, like, very clearly in pain, but he's like, I'm good.
Fine.
I'm me going to dance my choir show next week, even though I'm dying. But anyway, he's like, I'm fine. It's all good. And, like, he's very grumpy, and James is like, you have to go to the hospital wing. And then Peter gets up, and he's like, Remus, you have to go to the hospital wing. Remus is like, I'm not going to the hospital wing. And then Sirius gets out of the shower and he's like, Remus, you have to go to the hospital wing. And he's like, okay. And James is like, how did I miss this? Because this stuff happened all the time. And he just never picked up on it. And he's like, dude, what the heck? And now James is sitting there and he's like, how is Peter not noticing this? Like, everything. Anyway.
This is what I want to happen. I want Peter to just, like, know and be just like, yeah, this has been a thing. And just, like, straight up just, like, not care about it. It's just like, yeah, okay.
I can't say that that's what happens, but you know what? That can be Emma's version. Okay. So Madame Pomfrey, like, barely lets the others in to see Remus at lunch. Like, he's been in there all day. But Remus is like, if you don't let them in, I'm going to get up and go to my classes for the rest of the day. And she's like, fine, they can come in. Okay, so once Madame Pomfrey gets out of earshot, Remus is like, listen, I've been doing some thinking. I don't think you guys should come tonight to the full moon. And they're like, and Sirius is like, yeah, as if we're just gonna leave you. I'm like, what? And Remus is like, no, really, like, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Like, this is stronger than it has been in a long time. I don't know how the wolf is gonna react to anything. And Sirius is like, yeah, but, like, we are here to keep you safe. So, like, if you're thinking it's gonna be worse than usual, that's, like, more reason for us to come. Like, we're gonna come. And Remus is like,
I could kill you.
Yeah, Remus is like, so I disagree with that statement. And Peter's like, listen, okay, I'm on Remus's side. Like, if he doesn't think we should go, we should probably, like, not go, right? And then Sirius is like, okay, like, we're big enough to, like, protect him and stop him from doing any harm. And Peter's like, dude, speak for yourself? You could eat me. Like, what do you mean, bruh? So they bicker for a bit, and then finally James is like, honestly, he's like, I'm kind of on Sirius's side here. Like, I'm a deer, and Sirius is like this big frickin' dog. If we stay in the shack, we should be able to control you. And Remus is like, whoa. And he's like, but, like, we should definitely make an exit plan, like, for sure. But, like, I think we should at least try. And so that's what they end up doing. And yeah, so Remus is like, fine, that's good, but, like, you have to make sure that it's the way that you guys can get out, but I can't get out. And Sirius is like, yeah, sure, fine. Well, yep, we will leave. Anyway, I have a feeling he's not gonna leave. What? Anyway, James is like, okay, we gotta go get, like, the shack ready. Like, I have an idea. We can, like, escape through the attic, because we have, like, more control over our animal bodies than this wolf. I don't think the wolf's gonna be able to climb a ladder. Could just be me.
James,
but, like,
his little deer self climbing up a ladder.
Don't worry. I fix that later. But hypothetically, yes, I'm gonna say under the best circumstances, James can absolutely climb a ladder.
While there's a werewolf
in his
trying to eat him.
I'm saying in the best circumstances, James can climb a ladder, okay?
How is this the best circumstance?
It's not, but I'm saying. They're all like, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's, like, make sure. And it's, like, for some way that, like, that Peter can trigger, like, the ladder to come down and stuff. So, like, we gotta go set up this whole contraption here. But Remus holds James back for a second. He's like, James, please just make sure Sirius doesn't do anything stupid.
James is like, don't worry, we're climbing a ladder.
No, but James is like, he is like, because obviously he still feels bad about everything about how poorly he reacted to everything. So he, like, takes on this responsibility. He's like, yeah. James. He's like, of course, I'm gonna do it. Don't worry.
That's what James said.
That's what I said. That's what she said. What did she say, Emma?
Snuffles doesn't like this.
Emma, I've been so lonely. This is what I needed. Okay, the blue moon. The transformation is awful. It's, like, the worst thing in the world. Like, they're waiting, like, the others, like, are waiting in the tunnel this time to, like, be there as soon as possible. And they can, like, hear it, and it's just bad, and they hate it. And then, like, James is, like, looking at at Sirius as it's happening, and he's like, hey, listen, if we can't help him, we have to leave Sirius, right? Like, out the attic, like we planned, right? And Sirius is like, yep, right. And he's like, okay, we're gonna go. And so as soon as the transformation is complete, Sirius immediately transforms and, like, jumps out of the trapdoor, like, immediately coming face to face with the wolf. And it's very tense for a bit, and then the wolf, like, growls at him and, like, jumps at Padfoot. And Padfoot is, like, thrown onto his back, and, like, they're holding each other off with teeth and claws and everything, and it's bad. And then Prongs comes in, and he's got his big ol' antlers, and he, like, throws the wolf off of him. And then, like, when Padfoot stands, he's, like, limping. And then, like, the wolf, when he sees Prongs, is like, whoa, a bit large, okay. And he, like, kind of backs off slightly. And then all three of them are just kind of looking at each other. And then, like...
Peter comes in.
Yes, Peter. Yeah, I forgot to mention Peter's here because he's, you know, a mouse. I don't even know what he. Okay, let's take a little break here. Let's talk about the logistics of Peter helping Remus in any way, shape, or form. He's a freaking mouse. What's he gonna do? Like, literally, what does he?
I imagine it's like in it's like James is the chef guy. You know? And he just pulls on his antlers, and then James has no idea what goes on during this time. It's all just Peter.
So you think it's a ratatouille?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, that seems like an Emma's version.
Okay, so what is Peter doing?
I don't know. He just kind of scurries around. He just vibes. I don't even know. I've just never understood that, like, ever. I'm just like, what does this man do? He just kind of is there. Like,
he goes up to the little tree and, like...
Yeah, he hits the knot. He hits the knot on the tree. Good job, Peter. You did it. All right. Anyway, back to tense moment.
Anyways,
after Peter came in, but Padfoot is like, okay, like, we're gonna try again, like, slowly trying to move closer to the wolf, being like, I'm a friend. The wolf's not having it, like, obviously. The wolf lunges at Sirius again, but James is, like, ready this time, and he, like, steps in between them and, like, takes the full force of this thing happening. And then the wolf is like, okay, fine, if you're, like, gonna be like that. And, like, turns away and, like, runs into a different room, and he's, like, angry and howling. And he's, like, then scratching at everything, like, he wants to just get out of here, you know? The wolf is not having a good time. And it's, like, it's just bad. He's, like, howling, screaming type thing. The reason the Shrieking Shack is called the Shrieking Shack is, like, happening right now. And the wolf is, like, trying to throw himself at the walls, trying to break anything or whatever, and so Padfoot steps in again, which results in another, like, really bad fight, and Prongs is like, dude, stop doing this. This hasn't ended well. It's happened 3 times now. And so Prongs, like, has to use all of his energy to get them apart from each other, all while trying to avoid, like, all the teeth from the wolf. And then by the end, Padfoot and Prongs are pretty badly scratched, and James knows, like, okay, it is time to leave. We have done our best. We gotta go. So they manage to, like, get into the room that has, like, the attic thing. They close the door, but it's not going to hold for a long time. They can kind of figure out how to work doors because they're humans, really. But, like...
Well, just, like...
really? Like, they just gotta, like, just whap at the doorknob a bunch. But, like, the wolf doesn't know how to do that. Yeah. But the wolf doesn't know how to do that. So it's, like, it'll hold it for, like, not for very long. And so, you know, Padfoot looks at him confused until he sees Peter up, that's
scurrying about.
Yeah, scurrying about, like, pulling, like, the string or whatever that triggers this whole, like, attic thing to happen. And then Padfoot literally shakes his head no. He's like, I'm not going. And Prongs is like, dude, No.
He's like, I'm the one who saved your life.
You're gonna die. Gone. He's like, I'm bigger, I'm stronger. And so then soon he and James are fighting. They're like going at it. And the dog is like trying to get to the door while the wolf is also trying to get through the door. And James is like, what is happening? So he like literally has to take Padfoot by like the scruff of his neck and like drag him to the bottom of the ladder. But then he's like, okay, I can barely get up the ladder on a good day myself. How am I supposed to do this with a frickin', dog? Like, what am I supposed to do here? And so like the wolf is at the door. He's gonna break it down quickly. James has like one choice and he's like, I gotta do it quickly. So he like, and Padfoot's like about to get up again, so he like throws Padfoot to the wall, trying to wind him a little bit. James transforms into his human body with a wolf behind the door, takes out his wand, stupefies Sirius, levitates Sirius up the ladder, and runs up the ladder as fast as he can, getting out just as the wolf breaks through the door. Like, terrifying moment. Peter's like dying by the time they get up because he's been watching this whole thing from up there. He's like, what is happening? And so then Sirius transforms and they're all up and they like, have gotten the ladder. It's all, they're safe now. But Peter's like, what? He's like, okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm not with it because I'm like, I'm an inch tall here. But what were you thinking, Sirius? He's like going off on him, and Sirius is like, no, what were you thinking? Are we just supposed to like leave him there and to torture himself and stuff? And they're like, he was trying to kill us, and he's like, we would have been fine. And James is like, we would not have been fine. We weren't fine. You especially were not fine. And Peter's like, we gotta get out of here. And there's like a howl underneath them, and like Sirius doesn't want to go. And so as James turns to go, he realizes something, and he Expelliarmus is Sirius because Sirius was about to take out his wand and do who knows what. And now Sirius is angry. And they're just like staring each other down. And then Peter's like, guys, seriously, like we have, can we please go? Like, I don't want to be here anymore. There's a werewolf directly underneath us. I don't know if you knew. And James is like, he's right, we have to go. And Sirius is like, we promised we would do everything we can to make sure that he wouldn't hurt himself. And his voice like breaks as he said this. And James is like, and I promised him that I wouldn't let anything happen to you. And then James is like, I don't want to do this either, Sirius, but really we weren't even close to getting through to him. There wasn't anything we could do but get out. And Sirius is like, fine. And then they go. So that's pleasant. Gosh. I love to start off a good episode with some lovely things. Don't worry, I make up for it. We're gonna have a little water break again.
I really hope we get snow, because I don't want another 5-day week.
Bruh, I don't want to miss more school. I know it is.
The high today is 71, and then tomorrow there is a chance of snow from 6 a.m. through the whole day.
Yeah. I don't know. And then it gets down to like 20 degrees that night.
It's gonna drop like 60 degrees overnight.
Yeah. So. Okay, we ready to continue going and have it be like a little less sad? Actually, it might not get less sad yet.
This is why you have chronic fatigue.
Okay, thank you. Anyway. So, the boys levitate themselves down off of like the attic window of the Shrieking Shack, and then like James and Peter had stashed the invisibility cloak like somewhere outside earlier. Miracle it didn't get stolen, but whatever. It's literally the invisibility cloak of death. But like he's like, let me hide it under this bush. Oh yeah, so afterwards like Peter transformed because like they all can't fit under the cloak, and so it's like a little awkward because it's like James and Sirius like snuggled up.
Yeah.
After that whole excursion happened. And so then like when they like go through the Honeydukes tunnel, and like on the way they definitely raided.
This is their little like journey. So they
go from the Shrieking Shack,
a werewolf. head down, break into a little candy shop.
Literally. No, and they also steal, they go into the owner's cabinets and steal, like, healing tonics and stuff because they're all, like, scraped up and stuff and they don't want to go to Madame Pomfrey.
They're taking some, like, chocolate.
No, they're not gonna... Well,
okay.
they might have done that too. But, like, seriously, but they're, like, all scraped up and stuff. But, yes, and the thing is, they've definitely, like, done this before. Like, like, not because of the werewolf thing, but they've made this journey in the dead of night before, I guarantee. So anyway, so when they're back in the tunnel, James hands Sirius back his wand, and he's like, listen, I'm sorry I had to take this, but, like, you were kind of, like, and Sirius is like, it's fine, don't worry about it. And so then, when they're in the tunnel for a while, James is, like, still trying to... Sirius is just, like, stone-faced. Like, he's not having this. He's, like, very upset about this whole ordeal. And James is like, he's gonna be okay, right? Like, he'll be normal after a few days again. And Sirius just, like, kind of nods. Okay, and then in the dorm, James is, like, Mr. Healer Extraordinaire with, like, small cuts. Like, he's not really that great. Yeah, but, like, he can fix some scrapes, So he's trying to do that, but, like, Sirius, the limp was, like, actually on his arm, like, because he's a dog, front paw, anyway. So he can't really fix that, and he's like, I don't know how we're supposed to explain this to Madame Pomfrey, but, like, I don't know, bro.
Hey, funny little coincidence.
So, on the night of the full moon...
Completely unrelated.
No, but, like, he's doing everything, but... Again, back to my headcanon that I believe I've mentioned at one point. Forgive me if I haven't. But that werewolf scrapes or anything that is done by a werewolf can't be fully healed without... Like, well, it can't be fully healed. It will always leave a scar. And so, like, James is, like, trying to fix it, and he's like, I can't do a whole lot. And there's, like, a large mark on Sirius's chest, and he's like, sorry, man. So, and then James is like, here, let me try and put on these magic bandages that we stole from the Honeydukes owners. But yeah, so, like, James is, like, putting these bandages on Sirius, but they're, like, not speaking. And it's still pretty awkward. Peter, of course, manages to just sleep.
Yeah.
Through the night.
That's what I would do. I would get back and I would just immediately fall asleep.
Good for you. I could not. And neither can James or Sirius.
That sounds exhausting.
My life is exhausting right now. I get tired walking.
So you would fall asleep?
I would fall asleep. But only right now. Only in my current sickly state. Anyway. So, in the early hours of the morning, James hears Sirius, like, get up and begin, like, walking around the dorm and, like, thinking that he's, like, looking for something. And so James, like, sits up and opens his curtains, and he's like, it's too early, like, the sun's not even up, he's not going to be back yet. And Sirius is like, yeah, I know, I want to be there when he is. And James is like, Madame Pomfrey's never going to let that happen. He was like, well, I wasn't planning on, like, being seen, And then James, like, reaches into his trunk and, like, grabs the invisibility cloak, and he's like, well... You're gonna need this, buddy? Okay. So then Sirius has a cloak, and he's, like, outside of the tree, and Madame Pomfrey and McGonagall are both bringing Remus in, because, like, it's bad. It was not good, and so he's, like, sometimes Remus can even, like, walk out himself, but he was on a stretcher, and Minerva's, like, saying something like, oh, and he'd been doing so much better, too, wasn't he? And Pomfrey's like, yeah, but the blue moon just, like, messed him up. And Sirius is, like, walking by the levitated stretcher, and he's like, you'll read this. Just, like, as casually as he can possibly, like, not freak out this man. But he's like, hey, it's me. It's your boyfriend. He doesn't say that, but he, like, lets him know that he's there. And Remus is, like, kind of reaches out to him and, like, squeezes his hand. That's, like, cute or whatever. I don't know. So then in the hospital wing, Sirius is, like, standing back and watching as, like, Madame Pomfrey, like, heals all of his wounds, and there's just, like, a lot of them. And when she's done, she puts a sleeping draft on the bedside table and is like, okay, you gotta take that, like, as soon as you're able to. He's like, okay, like, don't worry. And then she's like, gotta go and, like, clean herself up. And Remus is like, as soon as she's gone, she's like, Sirius, you here, bro? And it's like been over an hour. Like he's not really thinking that he is, but of course Sirius is still there, and he's like, "Yep, I'm here." And he like lifts the hood off of the invisibility cloak, and Remus like smiles, and he like actually smiles, and he's like, and it just makes Sirius be like, "Bro, like what the heck?" Because like he's just been in so much pain. And like here's my other theory. Remus doesn't have a cot in the hospital wing. He has a bed. This man has a bed. Everybody wonders where the bed is, why nobody else gets to or not where the bed is, why the bed is there, why nobody else gets to use it, but it's Remus's bed.
That's actually the fifth bed from their room.
It's Kingsley's bed.
Kingsley comes back one day and they're like, "Yo, guys, where's my bed?" And they're like, "It's in the hospital."
My gosh, no, but it's like, it's bigger than a normal one because Madame Pomfrey got sick of him like being on these tiny cots, and she's like, "No, heck no, we're getting you a bed." And so anyway, he like, pulls Sirius onto like sitting on the bed next to him, and he like tries to hug Sirius, and like it's just too painful. And it's not great, and Sirius is like, "Bruh, like, chill out, lay down, do what you need to do." He's like, "I didn't come here to put you in more pain." And Remus is like, "I know, but I just," that whole thing. We're getting into true fanfic territory here. But then he hears footsteps, and like Madame Pomfrey's like already on her way back, and he's like, "Can you just like stay here with me under the cloak for like a while?" And Sirius is like, I can try. And so he does. He's like sitting there like very still underneath the invisibility cloak. When Pomfrey comes back in and she's like, "You haven't taken the sleeping draft." And he's like, I don't need it. I'm like good. She's like, "You idiot. What do you mean?
You're not good."
She's like, "No, you're taking it." And so Remus has to take the sleeping draft, and so he like glances at like where Sirius is. And he like, and Sirius squeezes his hand, like clearly being like, "I'm not going anywhere." And he doesn't. He stays the whole time, like a sweetie. Anyway, the fact that Sirius Black is missing from all of his classes the entire day was not surprising to literally anyone. Like members of that friend group just like
they disappear.
They just come and go very often. But Lily's a little bit offended that nobody decided to tell her where he was. Like, she's like, they were like, "Oh yeah, Remus like got badly hurt in like a prank, but like, or like in a spell gone wrong, and he's in the hospital wing." But she's like, "Okay, where's Sirius?" And James is like, "Yeah, I don't know where Sirius went. He's just he's kind of gone, And she's like, "Okay, so you're definitely lying to me, and like I thought we were friends, bro. What the heck?" I was like, "No, you're crazy." And so then she, like, tries to go and visit Remus. It's, like, lunchtime. And she's like, "Hey, can I, like, see Remus?" Because, like, sometimes he's, like, good enough by this point. And she's like, "No, like, you won't be able to visit him until, like, tonight, like, at the very earliest. You should probably just come back tomorrow." And then James and Peter are, like, exhausted and in some kind of mood this morning, and she's like, "What the heck is going on with them?" Marlene's in detention. Yeah. Everybody else just seems to be busy, and for, like, the first time this entire school year, Lily doesn't have anybody to really talk to. And so she's like, "Well, I guess I'm, like, just gonna go to the library and just, like, pretend to do work, because, like, everybody seems to be busy or whatever." And I'm like, how dare they? It's not like anybody almost died last night or anything like that. That would be crazy.
Imagine Marlene almost died last night.
Oh yeah, Marlene has another like side quest at this moment in time where she like went through like this, life or death experience. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. Somebody else can write that story. But anyway, so she's like wandering around the library pretending that like she's doing something. And then she happens across somebody that she hasn't seen in a very long time. And it was Mary. And she's sitting at a table with her head, like, stuck in a charms book. She's not great at charms, and Lily's always been good at charms. Like, she's always, like, helped her or whatever. And she's, like, completely oblivious to the fact that Lily's there. And so Lily's just kind of standing there. She's like, what do I do about this? Because a couple of episodes, I mentioned that she was, like, she missed Mary for the first time. And she's, like, been trying to figure out how to, like, reconnect, but like it's weird, and she's like, "I don't know if she hates me, blah blah blah." And she's like, she was thinking of like writing her like a note or something, but now she's like right here, and she's like, maybe I should maybe I should just do it. She's like, maybe I should probably just walk away. She's like, no, I should probably, like, yell at her or something because she's been kind of a jerk. Like, I don't know what's happening here. Lily's having a lot of conflicting thoughts. But something about the dark circles under Mary's eyes make her, like, stop. And she's like, okay, I'm going to do something. And she's like, hey, you want some help? And Mary's, like, head snaps up and she looks at her and she's just like, hey, and she's like, she's just, like, wondering what to do. And Lily's, like, not sure how to look, but she's not looking threatening. And then Mary just breaks down crying, and it's like, I'm so sorry, Lily. I'm so sorry. And Lily's like, well, okay. I just asked if you needed help with charms homework. This is when she shows her like obliviousness, because she's like, so you don't want help then? Okay, I'll go. And Mary's like, no! That's not what I meant. And she's like, and Lily's like, so you do want help? And she's like, no, yes, I don't know. I'm just, Lily, I'm sorry. I don't even believe all the crap that Julie and the others are saying. They just kept on including me and stuff throughout the summer. And then I wanted to talk to you before we got on the train. And then they talked to you first. And then I thought you hated me. And I thought it would be best if I just don't talk to you anymore. And I'm really, really sorry, Lily. I really am. I didn't mean for it to happen. And it's just, like, all pouring out. And, like, oh, I love Mary so much. And she just keeps on going, explaining, like, everything that happened over the summer, which is, like, you know, Julie and the others still, like, included her, even though she's a Muggle-born, but she has, like, an aunt or uncle who's wizarding, and so through their, like, you know, relatives give magic thing, it kind of works and stuff like that. And so she's like, they were still doing it, but she's like, but my parents are still Muggles, and so, like, I don't even believe it. I'm still technically a Muggle-born and everything. And she's like, it was just a lot. And
That's what I always say.
Yep. No, but she's just, like, blurting out all of these things. And she's like, and I'm so scared, and I don't even know what's happening, and there's, like, all these things that are just happening, and I don't even feel like I have friends anymore, but, like, I don't know what to do, and if you don't want to speak to me ever again, that's fine, but, like, I just wanted you to know all of that. And Lily she only stops talking when Lily, like, pulls her in for a hug, and, like, just is like, it's all okay. And yay, we're gonna see Mary more. Yay.
Yeah, I missed Mary.
I know, don't we all? Okay. So meanwhile, James. So James has snuck down to the kitchens to get some of Remus's favorite things to eat, and then he's, like, sneaks up into the hospital wing using the map. And so Remus is asleep, and he's like, well, shoot. He's like, Sirius, are you still in here? Sirius like down the cloak, and he's like, yo, it's good. Like, just laying on the... No, he wasn't. But, like, you know, he's like, yeah, I'm here. And so James is like, okay, like, how's he doing? And he's like, fine, but not great. Madame Pomfrey says it'll take a few days until he's, like, walking regularly again. And James is like, which means he'll be up and running tomorrow if he can help it. And he's just Sirius is like, absolutely. And James is like, so have you, like, actually talked with him much? Like, how does he feel about the whole thing that happened? Does he remember it? Like, what's the dealio with that? And he's like, well, I haven't had the chance to talk to him because whenever he's awake, Pomfrey is just, like, fussing over him like crazy. Like, I can't, like, talk. I can just kind of be here for emotional support, and that's pretty much it. But, like, you know, whatever. He's like, well, have you tried, like, using silencing charms or something? And he was like, well, yeah, but, like, it doesn't work because she's, like, always in here. She thinks that she has to keep him company the whole time. And James is like, how dare she? That's clearly your job. And he's like, I know, exactly. And then James was like, okay, would you, like, help with distracting her? And he's like, as if she let you, like, distract her? Like, what do you mean? How are you going to do that? And then, like, James happens to glance down at the map at that time, and he's like, okay, she's, like, about to be here, I have to go. But, like, I'll think of something, don't worry. He's like, what could you possibly think of? She knows, like, you can't just, like, go to the door and be like, oh, I have a headache. Like, we've tried this, like, a million times before. It's not gonna work.
James just, like, snaps his arm.
in front of her. It was like,
whoops.
Like, my arm's broken, Pomfrey, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, so he's like, okay. But yeah, so Sirius, you know, gets out of bed and it's like in the corner with the invisibility cloak as Pomfrey comes in and checks him again. This is what he always does. But yeah, so then when she leaves, he goes and he continues on what he's been doing this whole time because he's not doing schoolwork. Why would he?
No.
But what he has been doing is something that I keep on forgetting to mention about my version of Sirius. He draws. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of Sirius, like, drawing and, like, you know, being a fun little artist or whatever. So he continues drawing, and his paper has a dog and a wolf sleeping under a full moon. And I'm like, okay, am I sappy? Yes. Anyway, we're gonna continue. But James did think of something. And it only took a few minutes after he thought of it. It's like the last class of the day, right? And he's like, he used those bubble marbles from before, except this time he changed the charm. And instead of like bubbles coming out of it, it was like gas that had a shape-shifting charm on it. And then he was like, okay, I don't know. He was like, this might be a little bit too mean. And then, after he had, like, made it just to see if he could make it, and it worked, Mulciber just really decided that this would be a great time to just, like, threaten him. And so all James has to do is just take out this marble, just look at it in his hand for a while, very clearly in front of Mulciber, and just drop it on the ground and walk away. And Mulciber, like an idiot, picks it up and is like, what is it? And then the charm goes off, and like just different parts of his body, and then it slowly spread to like all the Slytherins around him, just start randomly changing into different animals, objects. Like you got a wooden table leg for an arm, and then I decided it had like a 15-second reset, and it would just randomly change you into something else later and stuff like that. It was very bad. Of course, somehow Mulciber still managed to like point at James, and so James is like, well, shoot, so he gets in trouble. So they all get taken up to the hospital wing because Minerva is trying to figure out how to fix the charm while simultaneously reprimanding James. So James is like sitting there in the hospital wing and she's yelling at him while trying to fix this poor child. But when one of the girls' heads suddenly becomes an elephant head and then starts elephant screaming, starts screaming very loudly, she leaves, and then James manages to slip the map underneath Remus's curtained off area and then books it out of there. And so at this point, Remus is like in there, and he's like in this curtained off area, like that happened as soon as like everybody started coming in. And then the elephant thing happens, and he's like, Sirius, what is going on out there? Can you please go check and let me know? Because they're both just like sitting there, and just like all of these noises are happening. So anyway, so Sirius like sneaks out and like sees this whole thing, and he like manages to see like James like booking it out of there as fast as he can, and he's like, oh my gosh, James did this whole thing. He's an idiot. This is not what I meant. But he's, like, looking, and, like, Pomfrey's, like, he's like, well, she is busy. She's not bothering him anymore. But he's like, well, I gotta get her to, like, check on Remus real quick. So he, like, puts a bottle of, like, Remus's medicine, like, as she's, like, working on this person, he, like, puts it on the table of the person, like, next to her while invisible, and then just, like, goes back. And it works. And she comes in, she's like, here's your medicine. I don't know how it got misplaced. Like, here it is. And he's like, what's happening? She's like, there was an accident, and he's like, an accident? She's like, it was an accident. And she's like, I'm just gonna be really busy for a while. Do you need anything? And he's like, a sound barrier might be really nice right now. She's like, yeah, don't worry. Like, there's screaming happening. Like, not human screaming, like animals screaming. One of them turns like a parrot. There's the Apple alarm sound. my gosh, no. But she's like, yeah, of course. So she puts one and she like puts a two-way sound barrier. And he's like, sweet. And suddenly he and Sirius have his opportunity to talk. And Sirius like takes off the cloak and he's like dying. He's like, what is this? And and he's like, and then he sees the map that James had like slipped under the thing. He's like, oh my gosh. But Remus is just like relieved. He told Remus what was going on, but like omitted the fact that he like indirectly asked for it and that James did this whole thing. He's like, it was James did it, but I don't know why. Like clearly somebody like ticked him off or something, you know, that type of thing. And so, but whatever. But he's like, hey, well, we have the map, so we can check if like Madame Pomfrey's gonna come back or something. Like this is great. And then Remus is just, like, relieved that nobody is, like, coming in to check on him anymore. He's like, I hate being monitored. She acts like I've never been injured before. And then Sirius is like, oh, so you don't like me being here? I'll go. I'll go then, right? Is that what you want? And Remus is like, no, don't even think about it. Get over here. Moves the blankets, like, angrily. He's like, get over here. I'm injured. And Sirius is like, fine, whatever. And then Remus, like, because he had been, like, drawing, like, on the bed when he was sitting next to him, he, like, feels the paper by his side, and he pulls out the drawings, and he's like, oh, and it's, like, all these sketches throughout the day, and, like, you know, one is, like, of Remus' side profile, and whatever, fun stuff, listen, whatever. But, so he gets the one of, like, the dog and the wolf under the full, hey! He sees the one of the dog and the wolf sleeping under the full moon. Stop hitting the camera, girl. And he's like, wow. He's like, you're a sap, aren't you? He's like, this is a little on the nose, don't you think? Oh my gosh. Hey. Well. I don't even know if the camera can pick that up, but if it can, Snuffles is loving on Emma. Anyway. But Sirius is like, oh, okay, no need to insult my art or whatever. I've just been here absolutely bored out of my mind. Forgive me. And Remus is like, no, like, I love it. I'm not gonna lie. It's like it's pretty great. He's like, they look very peaceful. Sirius is like, well, they're good for each other, you know? And then he's like, well, you know.
He's like, Remus is like, throwback to last night.
I know, yeah, but then Sirius is like, yeah, they do anything for each other. And Remus is like, he's like, we have to talk about that. He's like, what, that I wanted to stay with you last night and, like, make sure that you didn't hurt yourself? He's like, that you almost let me kill you was how I was going to phrase that statement there. And Sirius is like, it wouldn't have happened. And he's like, Sirius! He's like, you can't say that. You have no idea. I wasn't in control. I was scared. The me that could, like, kind of see what was going on was terrified because I didn't know what was happening. And Sirius is like, I'm sorry. I couldn't see. That's just not what it said. He's like,
couldn't see.
I couldn't see. It's like not the time to have a blooper. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, but anyway, he's like, I couldn't stand to see you hurt yourself when I knew that there was something I could do. And Remus is like, you couldn't have done anything. Like, you couldn't have. And he was like, I wanted to help this time, okay? I didn't want to make things worse again. And Remus is like, okay. No, but Remus doesn't miss the fact that Sirius glances down to his left forearm. So about his left forearm. Can you not, girl? What the heck? This is like a very intense part of the story. And you're just like grumbling.
She's just hanging.
She's not just hanging. But anyway, so on his left forearm was the only bite mark that Remus had ever given himself, which was, and it's the only bite mark on his body besides the one on his shoulder from when he was 7. And the one that he had given himself was when he had smelled Snape and James through the trapdoor during the night of, like, the prank. And he had gotten so angry and wanted to bite something so bad that he bit himself, which just didn't really happen before. And so Remus, in my version, like, always wears, like, long sleeves and, like, doesn't like to show the fact that he has scars or anything. But after they kind of were dating, he was like, look, it's my arm, Whoa, very scandalous here, let me tell you. No, but when Sirius had asked where it had come from, he was honest with him. He was like, yeah, it happened that night. It was not fun. I don't like to talk about it. But, and they had talked about it for a very long time. So that's not fun. And so Remus is like, Sirius, none of what happened last night is your fault. And Sirius just like looks away. And Remus is like, no, seriously, look at me. It's like, none of it. You did your best. That's all I could have asked for. He's like, but I didn't, and Sirius is like, I didn't want to make things worse by leaving. He's like, you know what? Remus is like, you know what would have actually been worse? If you had stayed and I had hurt you or done worse, I don't know. But, and Sirius is like, okay, but if I had stayed and helped you not hurt yourself, then, like, that would have been better. And then Remus is like, okay, but, like, who would have been sitting here with me all morning? Like, what the heck, Who would have been here this whole time? Peter. Who would have been, like... No! Peter's in freaking Transfiguration, having a good time. Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to make a Wolfstar moment, and you're over here being like, you know what, let's stay. I'm a Peter stan all of a sudden. I leave for 1 month. This is what happens. Oh my gosh. Remus at some point is like, he's like, I don't need you during the moon. Like, sure, it helps. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's 11 out of 10 experience. But I'm not even like me then. I would much prefer to have you here and not there if I had to choose, that type of thing. And he's like, I need somebody who's going to stay here and who's going to draw me these stupid pictures of a wolf and a dog sleeping under a full moon. Like, I need that. That's what's more important to me. And Sirius is like, yeah, that makes more sense. And he's like trying to not admit that he's getting emotional over this, but he's like definitely getting emotional over this. And Remus definitely knew it. And then they both just kind of sat there for a while because they're boys, and how do boys express feelings? I'm not sure. Throwback to season 1 fact that Sirius hates I love yous, right? Do you remember that even at all? Like, very vaguely.
I think so.
It was like early. But anyway, Sirius not liking I love yous. His mom ruined that. Not good. She was like, he hated the fact that people like said it when they didn't mean it, and that there's like all of these kids who just like say it like, oh my gosh, I love you, like stuff. He's like, I don't get it. And so he always told himself, he had always told himself, like, if somebody actually does love you, they won't need to say it because like you'll know, that type of thing. He's like, that's love should be shown and not told. But right now, for the first time, Sirius is like, oh, this is why people say it. Shoot. And so he's like sitting there, and he's like always told Remus, like, I don't say that. That's not what I do. And Remus has like totally gotten it because he's heard that story since the beginning of time practically. But in this moment, he's like, oh, people say it like just to be sure. Like, okay, I get it now. Now, he didn't manage to say it this night, but it was like a realization that he was like, maybe one day I actually might. But instead, what he does is he just like squeezes Remus's hand, and he's like, maybe that'll send the right message. And Remus squeezed back, and Remus was hoping the same thing. And that's the end of the episode. Sappy. Let's go. Anyway, yep. How do you feel about that?
Both of my arms are stuck.
Yeah, she does that. It helps me feel better, but like I don't. It is a little intrusive. Yeah. You can just push her off.
I just,
like she'll
breathe in her whole face.
Yeah, she's not affected by that. I, like, have fully, like, rolled over while she's been completely on top of me. I've picked her up and moved her. She's stayed asleep. She doesn't care. So that's kind of nice. Yep, her lip just twitched. She's having a dream where she's eating something. Yeah.
Like sometimes runs in his sleep.
She runs a lot in her sleep. She has very vivid dreams. It's only slightly terrifying. When she's, like, sleeping fully on top of me, like,
and she
just starts like, running, I'm like, holy crap. Anyway, yeah. So, my favorite part about going on hiatus is...
We didn't even do questions.
Shoot, and I even asked them today. We talked for like 10 minutes beforehand, though. We had a lot to catch up on. Yeah. I promise I'll use those next time.
Now we got some ready.
Yeah, now we have them ready for the next random moment I decide to record. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. If you're thinking that me posting means that it's going to be like normal again.
Nah.
I'm about to enter show choir competition season. I was already planning on taking a break from then anyway, so we'll update it whenever I feel like it. Whenever I get burnt out from school and stuff, and I have time to write, I'll write, and yeah, it'll be great. But yeah, if you want updates, follow my Instagram, because people kept on like DMing me or like commenting on my TikTok. That's like, when is it happening? The only place you will get updates is my Instagram, so you should follow that, if you want that. And then, yeah, it's LKTH394. And
wow,
yeah.
What a Harry Potter fan.
Okay. You don't have to come for me like that. My gosh. Okay, I don't know. Do you have anything else to add? How did you feel about the episode?
I liked it. It was good.
You say that every time. I want one of these times for you to be like...
I hated it.
I want you for one of these times to be like, 5 out of 10.
Maybe I will. Like,
you're just like, you know what? I didn't like it. And you were like, hey, you know what? I actually don't ship Wolfstar. So, like, I really wasn't a fan of this one. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
Snape.
Snape. Yes. Let's, what if I added, what if legitimately, like, I added Snape in? Like,
that's when I'll say I hate it. You do that, I will genuinely say I hate it. I'll get up and leave. I think I would laugh because I would think you were joking, and then you would keep going with it, and then I would be like, what the heck?
They share a tender embrace. Oh my gosh.
Not like that.
Oh, Snuffles woke up at that. She's like, I don't like that drink. Oh my gosh. She was like, you named me after a convicted mass murderer. He wasn't guilty, though. Remember that.
She doesn't believe it.
She's a Peter sympathizer. Just like you, apparently. Like, crap. Okay, anyway. I should probably, talk us out of this. Anyway. Yeah, thank you so much for watching and listening. Big shout out to Benji Wilson for the music, and, Ren the Metamorphologist for the art. Really appreciate both of them. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll post again.
Who knows?
Maybe regularly? Not sure. But yeah, keep a lookout on my YouTube community tab for less frequent updates and my Instagram story for more frequent updates. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye. No. Stop snorting in the camera. Girly, this might be an issue. She's like, does it look like I give a crap? No. We stay here. This good spot right here. Yep. Right here. Right, just like this. We're just going to leave that stuff down. Yes. Good girl. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it's also the blue moon is coming up. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's go. Let's start this thing.
Okay.
Girly, what the heck? She's like, I love Emma. She's my favorite. Now I leave. Nope, she's sitting on you.
On my leg?
Yes, she wants to sit on you. It's what she does.
People to sit on my legs. Like,
She's a DPT dog.
Okay.
That's literally her whole job. You made her so sad, Em. I'm kidding.